Welcome to Serious Talk, Salesforce at Scale. I'm your host, Greg Banks. Thanks for joining us today. If you ever heard the words custom code and immediately pictured spiraling cost, hidden gremlins, and a developer who left the company 2 years ago, now what do I do? This conversation is going to change how you think. Today, I'm joined by co-host 𝘵𝗫 and our guest, Taylor Stewart, a developer on our team who specializes in integrations and has been on the leading edge of using assistive AI here at Sirius. We get practical about a few things: how AI changed the real cost and speed of building integrations, how Taylor mocked up a full integration demo in a few hours instead of days, where the line sits between code and configuration, and how she built a personal AI assistant, Workflow, to run an entire project solo. This is a fun one. Let's get into it. All right, welcome back to Serious Talk, Salesforce at Scale. We've got a new guest on the show today. Allie's here with me, but we've got Taylor Stewart from our development team. We're going to peel back a slightly different layer on the episode today, but glad to have you ladies here with us.
Yeah, happy to be here. And I'm so excited to have Taylor on with us today.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to be here.
So we're bringing the development team on. If anybody's new to the ecosystem, I don't listen to a lot of the new stuff that comes out these days. But when I came into the ecosystem back around 2010, 2011, what you heard every time there was a promotion was all clicks, no code. And I think largely that's carried Salesforce for many, many, many years. But in more recent years, I think with Lightning coming out, Lightning Pages, a lot of different things, more companies have leaned towards doing things with code. It's still not a full-on dev thing like people did with .NET back in the 90s, but certainly we're seeing more of it. And with that, we've gone from a development team of one. We had a one-person department to, I think, we're 4 or 5 people now. It's just become a part of nearly every project. And that still doesn't necessarily mean writing a ton of code. It might be a Lightning Web Component, certain things that have code-based configurations and whatnot. But we wanted to kind of peel that back today and talk not just about code, but specifically how AI is affecting development, not just in the execution of the project, but even how we land projects. So I know, Taylor, you've had some creative juices that's helped 𝘵𝗫 with some of the selling side of things. So that's about as far as I go into coding. So I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah. So, for anyone who's not seen Taylor on our socials, et cetera, before, Taylor is one of our developers who specializes in integrations. And she's also kind of been on the leading edge of using assistive AI here at Sirius. She's one of the creative minds behind a lot of the really cool solutions that we've come up with. And so we really wanted you specifically, Taylor, to come talk to us about kind of the arc of assistive AI in dev over the past year or so, because I think things started with dipping some toes in, and then pretty quick we were all jumping into the water full body all at once. So what I want to start with is, when you first started with us, when you were when you and I first started working together and talking about how do we make integration easier itself, how do we make talking about integration easier, I want to start with what are some of the things that pre-assistive AI, that we were always talking to customers about that were like challenges with integration. We like to be realistic with people. We like to talk to them about like, hey, integration, it doesn't have to be the worst, it doesn't have to be the worst and most long drawn out project in the world. We want to be realistic. There are some challenges with it, with how we get data together and the time that it takes. And so do you want to talk a little bit about some of those main challenges that we had before AI started entering the process?
Yeah, for sure. And you said the key word already. The big thing was time to take to implement. Before AI, the amount of time it would take to build even a smaller scale point to point was pretty heavy. You're handwriting all of that code, all of the test classes, documentation by hand, mapping documents by hand. Like that is a lot of time. And then that results in a pretty high cost to implement. And then on top of that, manpower, not always having the people with the right skills to help build those integrations. So those are the biggest things that I'd see.
Yeah. And, as we started learning about what tools were going to be available to us, what were some of the first ways that you started using AI in custom dev here at Sirius?
The first way was probably similar to a lot of people and a lot of developers are just kind of dabbling with ChatGPT output. Kind of using ChatGPT as our new Google is kind of how I started dipping my toes into it. So still handwriting all of my code, but now I'm stuck on a problem. Let me go see what ChatGPT has to say about it instead of, going to Stack Overflow or searching through Salesforce forums for a snippet of code that solves someone else's problem. And just taking that level out, that like researching, debugging online level, like significantly increase your time before you even started writing
Hmm.
using AI to write code. And then you get a little more brave and you're like, okay, well, I know how this should be structured and this is a simple class. Let me just see what ChatGPT gives me and see if it's something that is actually like viable that I can plug and play with, and then kind of developing from there. So that's how I got started into it. Took me took me a little bit to get comfortable, not gonna lie. I like writing my own code.
Yeah. Which I think is actually a pretty good trait for most developers to have, to like
Yeah.
what they do, to like writing code.
Yes, for sure.
And I think as we started exploring vibe coding, as we started exploring where we can use AI effectively, because obviously, I think it needs to be said that no matter how good AI gets at developing code, nobody's perfect. We're not. There's a reason that we peer review our own code. We want to peer review the code that AI helps us write too. So there's definitely always still a human element there. But as we started kind of exploring those tools, I think, did a really, really nice job of kind of thinking outside the box for how AI can assist us in our workday. I call back to like when we think of when we submit for employee of the quarter, and I'm like, who has just like gone above and beyond? You're the one who came to mind. And I want to talk a little bit about something that I think has changed the way that we not only sell, but the way that we deliver here at Sirius. And that is the integration demo that we did together about a year ago now. I mean, it feels like it was a while ago now. But Taylor and I came up against a situation that I think is pretty common. A customer was interested in integrating Salesforce Field Service with their ERP. And they said, hey, can you do a demo of the integration? For anybody who's not familiar, doing a demo of point-to-point integration pretty much requires that you build the point-to-point integration. So it's really tough to demo something that's going to be a custom connection. And so I was just kind of talking in the dev channel, and I said, hey, this is an ask a customer has had. I'm assuming we can't really demo this. I just wanted to make sure that I said the words out loud that this was something a customer asked us for. And Taylor said, hold on, let me think about this. Taylor, do you want to talk about kind of how you thought about that and how you thought about how AI could help with that?
Yeah. So going way back in the day, doing POCs in that previous experience, pre AI, is exactly what you said. We would be dedicating days to building out full POC, full functionality that like you're really hoping gets sign off because you just built the whole functionality in the org that's being shown. So you definitely don't want to go about it that way. That's a lot of time and resources and money, like we talked about earlier. And I had previously done a small POC before the problem that you presented, a small POC that did use a Salesforce org, but I used ChatGPT to generate the Lightning Web Component for me, and then just imported that in, plug and play. So still doing the metadata, doing the code, but I was done in 5 hours. So significantly progressed there. And I'm like, okay, let's take this a step further. And this was pretty early on in like experimenting with Claude. And I keep hearing about how powerful Claude is and how Claude can mock up UIs that are really robust and interactive. And I'm like, well, why even write the code? Let's just see what Claude can put together for us. And with the integration that we were working with, I took some screenshots, compiled together what the external service needed to look like, and used Claude and iterated back and forth to generate the interactive website that you were able to
Yeah.
show to the client. So early wave of using Claude here at the company.
Well, and I mean, with that, now it's like, okay, it's something that we are starting to do more frequently. But at the time, it was like, okay, we can actually do a mock-up of what does it look like for someone in Salesforce to complete a work order and mark it as invoiceable, and then to have that invoice automatically create in the ERP the way it would if we were integrated, and to be able to show that click path and show what it would look like logging into that ERP. Even though we're a Salesforce consulting firm, we don't configure ERPs, but we're able to show that. And I just remember that it was such a huge kind of light bulb moment for a lot of us to be like, okay, I mean, Taylor did this in like you came back to me so fast with it.
Yeah.
It was like 2 hours. And so to be able to see what could be done so quickly really, I think, opened a lot of eyes, but like turned on a lot of light bulbs here at Sirius. And so we said, hey, okay, we could be doing some really cool stuff. And I think that has kind of been the genesis of a lot of our new POC programs, which I believe we're going to have a podcast episode about that coming up pretty quick here too.
Just had POC not
Yeah.
too long ago, but my brain kind of exploded just then. If
It's
somebody
really
would have
cool.
asked I mean, who loves doing work that you don't get paid for, right? So doing these during the sales process is a little bit on the crazy side, or at least it was just a year ago. But if somebody want to talk about doing an integration, probably the number one thing we face is people only think about the happy path, right? They only think about, well, I click this and that should send an account over to my ERP. Well, that's great. But as it turns out, that only happens about 20% of the time. Most of the time, it's what we typically call the exceptions, the unhappy path. What about this? What about that? And everybody thinks about that during discovery. They don't think about it during the sales process. So many things that might went to my mind. First, I thought we would have had 5 hours of meetings. You just did it in 5 hours. Secondly, the things that matter most are those exceptions. Those are the things when an integration quits working, when it doesn't work, when there is the exception, that just breaks everything because it's not something you do every day. What this allows us to do is build the happy path much, much, much quicker. Take the time for those harder conversations, those exceptions. Everybody loves to think about them, but it takes time to talk through them. So
Yeah.
to hear some shortcuts to that and alleviate some pain, it doesn't help them visualize, but it really allows them to put a focus of the time where the problems normally lie. So
Yeah.
this is really exciting to hear.
Well, as we're all seeing this, it's not a huge shift. It's like this little small shift in the ecosystem where Salesforce is even themselves marketing Salesforce as a part of a tech stack instead of a Salesforce can do everything. They're bringing in tools like Agent Fabric to connect to your other agents in your tech stack and to connect to other services. Data 360 is going to be making sure that all of our systems are connected properly. So as Salesforce is making this shift to say, we are a critical part of your tech stack overall, and there are other tools that you can operate with successfully that run your business. You need an ERP and GL tool. I really like the idea that we're able to rely on AI to kind of, I know we all know the term the art of the possible, but it really makes it a lot easier for people to understand that art of the possible and visualize it, because I'm, as the person in our org who's in sales and is a solutions engineer, my job is to show people what could happen. It is really tough to trust, spending millions of dollars on Salesforce sometimes if you can't see it working with your data and in your context. So this kind of AI assistive process of being able to show people realistically in context with your company's information what this could look like, I think is a game changer. So I think another big impact that we've seen of using assistive AI in our dev processes is that, and Greg, you can tell me if you feel this too, it feels like it has made a lot of custom code options feel less scary. And what I mean by that is I think a lot of times people look at that marketing that Salesforce had for like over a decade of clicks, not code, clicks, not code. You don't need to code. You can do everything declaratively. I think a lot of us got a little bit scared of Apex and of having to custom code something. And we heard that rhetoric for a really long time that if you use custom code, and especially if you don't do best practice, if you're hard coding things in, that it's not going to be flexible for your org. But with how much more we've been able to use AI to show us what's possible, it feels like we have been able to work a lot more closely together to say, how can we combine code and config in a way that truly delivers more success? So instead of like Lightning Web Components are a great example where I think several years ago, it would have been like, ooh, can we do this without custom dev? We don't want to make the customer pay for all that time it takes to develop. And we want to try to use out of the box tools when we can and configurative tools. Now, because A, we know that it's a lot faster to develop those Lightning Web Components, and B, because we're able to see what things could look like so much faster, it means when a customer comes to us and says, hey, my field techs are really used to seeing this in a specific format. And I'm like, well, a page layout can't do that, but our dev team can. And it's been a lot easier to include. It's felt less scary to say, yeah, let's just pop a Lightning Web Component in there because we know that it'll be easier. I know, Taylor, you guys have been working on how to make a lot of things easier. Can you talk to me a little bit about what are your favorite ways that you've been using code to just make dev easier and faster and more collaborative? I know that we've been doing a lot more collaborative work with our delivery teams. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So I work right now mainly alone on one client. So kind of a little less on the collaborative side with everybody. So first, speaking just a little bit on how it has made it possible for me to survive in my current role. With AI, I'm able to run a full scale project, has a project manager, has a solution architect, the senior developer managing all the documentation, the stories, and now as we get into the development side, the code as well. And I'm working very closely with Claude to make all of that happen. And I'm pretty confident in the output that it gives me. So in the hands of a senior developer, I mean, it's just limitless. In the past, on the dev team, if you came to us and were like, "Hey, I've got kind of a complicated Lightning Web Component. I've kind of got this complicated integration between multiple systems," even us are going to be a little hesitant to be like, "Oh, we can look into it." But now with these tools, a single developer plug them into one of the teams, and we can make all those things that seemed like 6-month ordeals just feel so much more obtainable with the way that we're working with it. And then to your point about like the clients and their comfortability with code, I feel like a big thing there is our confidence when we speak about it. Because before it's like, well, if you want to go that route, you're going to need custom code, you're going to need this. But now we can go in and be like, well, here's a member of our dev team, and we start talking about it. We're like, yeah, we can absolutely do this, and we can replicate your company branding, your look, your feel, your everything. And yeah, and we can get this to you relatively quickly. And then the client feels more comfortable, like, okay, this is going to be great. We're going to get what we want out of it.
I've seen a lot of conversations about like, oh, well, are we still going to experience some of the same issues of code being like less flexible if we need to make changes in the future and things? And I think there's a degree of you still have to be a good developer to be able to say, hey, like when working with Claude, we're still going to build under a set of best practices and a set of guidelines for coding that our dev team has to make sure that we're building future proof tools still, no matter, what we're using to build them. So
Yeah.
I also know that you have been working AI into your personal workflow a lot. So not necessarily just the actual development that we're doing, but also how you're going about your day, how you are managing a project as the senior dev who is the only dev on the project. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you've expanded AI use into that personal workflow and some of the things that have been especially helpful for you?
Yeah, definitely. So I use AI basically as my BA because I can't survive by myself. I need my BA. So I created my BA the way that I would want that to work out. So what I ended up doing with that made sense with my brain and how I work is I essentially just made a wrapper for Claude and made it a UI that I could interact with. Every day I'm logging in. I made myself a dashboard and have it go ahead and kick off my day. Tell me what meetings I have coming up, what solution designs do I need to work on next? Can you help me write these user stories for me? And then okay, let's switch gears. We need to get back into code. And I've got that all very tailored and personalized to me and my app. So on the back end, it's running in Obsidian Vault, and every day that I work with it, it's logging into that vault, how it thinks that I want it to interact with me, and everything about my project, all the context it needs for the next day. And that's just been invaluable to me working solo on this project. It's been really, really powerful. So I'm very happy with that.
And do you have all the other tools that we use here at Sirius? Like you have it connected to your ClickUp, connected to your email. You've got it connected into everything so that when we're thinking about how do we make sure that everyone else is on the same page, your project manager can just go look in ClickUp and Claude's updating for you. Has
Yes.
everything connected there?
Yes, absolutely. I have it connected across Google Drive, ClickUp, GitHub, my dev org, obviously, for Salesforce. So yeah, it's connected to all of my different systems, and I can have it auto push for me to at the end of the day. It knows I'm done. It can push up stuff to ClickUp, or I can, oh, I need to update this ClickUp task real quick. Let's do that. So that's a huge piece, having it connected to everything.
And I know that for some folks who haven't not necessarily used Claude a whole lot, who may be kind of getting started, I'll admit, you say that you have it connected to an Obsidian Vault, and I'm like, huh? For folks who are kind of thinking about, okay, how can I start to use AI tools to make me either maybe it's people want to be more productive at work, maybe people want to be more efficient, maybe people are have different goals that folks have. I have ADHD, so personal workflow is something that I'm always thinking about how I can improve. What are some ways that you would recommend folks get started, especially if they don't have a custom dev background? What are some tools you think that they should take a look at first?
Yeah, for sure. You definitely don't have to jump in and like create your whole desktop custom app like I did for fun. The best way I think is just to log into whether you're using Claude or ChatGPT, get logged in and just start clicking around, start messing with everything. Watch some YouTube videos on how to set up your workspace. How do you set up Claude projects? And all of that can be done in the Claude desktop app or in the ChatGPT one. And I find the best resources are on Anthropic and OpenAI's account. I think there's really great learning materials on there. And everything is actually, once you kind of know how it works in Claude or ChatGPT, it's pretty easy. The way to connect your external systems, pretty easy to get those connected. So I would definitely recommend that route.
And I know we have open hours every week where we can talk about ways that each of us have found to use our AI tools in different ways. And we share a lot about, hey, this is what I did this week that was really helpful. And here's how you can do it too. Are there any like forums or places that people can ask those kinds of questions that you would recommend?
There definitely are, honestly. A big place that myself and other members of the dev team go to is Reddit. I feel like anything Anthropic and OpenAI are doing that's a new release that you're confused about, which actually just happened recently with how they're modeling Claude subscriptions really heavily impacted the way I developed the app. It's going to change a lot of things. Well, the most up-to-date sources for that were Reddit threads for Anthropic and the things that they were doing. So we'll have to say that I'm not super into the forum space online. I should probably be more involved with like AI forums.
You're a lurker at this point?
I am a lurker. I am definitely a lurker. And if there's something new, it's okay, let me just check Reddit real quick. And that's kind of the main up to new site. Or you can check out LinkedIn. I know there's always frequent posts about new changes on there as well.
Awesome. I know it's crazy how much having a tool take over some of those smaller, repeatable tasks every day just wildly changes your day at work for the better. So,
Yeah,
Greg,
absolutely.
anything that you've
Yeah,
got to
I've
ask about?
got some comments sitting listening to you two talk at a level I don't normally operate, but I've been an engineer for 30 years. I've been around code. I've written code. I did it in VBA. Y'all can go Google that, kids. It's a long ago forgotten language, but I've written tens of thousands of lines in that. But a couple things I wanted to call out. One, nothing got thrown out the window. Everything that we would have called best practice 5 years ago is still best practice today. Start with a plan, right? That matters. Begin with the end in mind. If you don't do that, you're going to find yourself in a cul-de-sac and finding it very hard to get out. So those still apply. Secondly, anybody who's ever written a line of code will tell you this. It is so much easier to find a problem in code somebody else wrote than what you wrote. So what I love most about this is if I can throw some words out and have Claude write some code, I'm not acting like somebody else when I review my code. I am somebody else when I read my code. So it just makes it easier to me to go look at something that I didn't write and things just jump out at me. I'm not familiar with any of it, right? It doesn't visually resonate. So I'm having to really go through and think, and it makes it better. So from that standpoint, Allie, when you talked about some things that made code scary, when I was an org owner, what scared me was total cost of ownership. What are the gremlins around the corner that I can't see? And when they come out at night, when you don't feed them and they come out, then what in the world have I got to do to put them back at bay? If that developer's no longer here, if they didn't comment their code, or worse, they did, but they wrote bad code. Now I'm trying to get somebody with some good discipline to fix somebody who didn't have discipline's problem. It goes from being a Band-Aid to a complete reconstruction. So when you think about code, a lot of times that's what those of us who have PTSD from it would come to the table with is, I've done this before and the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Like I got a cute little thing in the corner that does magical things now. It changes the font color. If it's, if it's red, if it's bad, it's green, if it's good, whatever. The number of headaches I went through to kind of keep that thing running as we evolved, it just wasn't worth it. I think all those days are gone, right? Now we have a lot better way of kind of looking at that, documenting, designing with best practice, reviewing the code, deploying the code. Yeah. All those things just got a lot more confidence through this process.
Well, think about things like blank page syndrome. It's always harder to start something than it is to continue or edit. And then also, I mean, as a person who's been typing documents and emails for a large portion of my life, it's a lot of times the simple things that you cruise through really quickly that you're prone to make mistakes in. And a lot of code, there are a lot of things that you're typing that are just the foundation of the code. It's not necessarily the most complicated part that you're having to troubleshoot and figure out. It's the structure that you have to do over and over again that AI tools have really been able to take off of our plate so you can spend your time where it matters. Just like you were saying, Greg, like
Yeah.
whenever we're doing any project, we want to make sure that our time is being used as wisely as possible. We don't like to charge our customers for hours that are not going to be useful to them. That's not fun for anybody. And in the same way, we don't want to use our time unwisely
Yeah.
internally either. So,
Yeah. The other thing that I think got better through this, if you've ever been on the delivery side of a project, you sit down with the client, they say they want ABC. And by the time they see ABC, they forgot C, B, or A was even said, right? The length of time between ideation and visualization are so long, people forgot. What I love about it is we can get to that place much, much faster. So if I can get
mhm.
to it faster, they can see it faster. The level of confidence in the foundation just went up. Now we're building from a higher state of trust. We build better things. This series is called at Salesforce at Scale. At scale typically means I don't get everything I want at the beginning. I get something I know I can trust. I can get in. I crank the car. It gets me to point B. We're happy. Maybe I need to get some tires with tread on them. We'll do that later. Whatever those next step things are that you need to do, I don't have to document the code the way I used to because AI can figure that stuff out. I don't have to visualize and render every time. The number one rule of documentation is don't do it till the end, because if I take a screenshot and document it, that's a guaranteed way somebody's going to come make a change and I got to
Yeah.
redo all those screenshots. And then you find out how horrible Word really is. So, yeah, so many things that just got eliminated in that process that I don't wait till the end of the project. I'm out of budget. I'm out of time. And I'm just trying to throw a document out. And that doesn't help the client. It doesn't help them scale. So the velocity of this is what changes everything.
Mhm.
It builds trust sooner. It gets results sooner. It gets turnaround when there are adjustments. You can do them quicker. The reviews are quicker because there's not as much wrong because best practice has been built in. She tailored her agent to her. Is her name
Yeah.
Taylor?
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Is your agent's name also Taylor?
it
Yeah.
is just to call
Yeah.
everything. It's been tailored by Taylor. That should be the new. Yes, that should be the new saying.
Yeah. So I think just from an org owner perspective or a client perspective, I see so many things in the past where I would have slammed the door if you said custom dev. You're never being invited back in here again. To me, those are gone.
Well, any other final questions that you've got, Greg? Final thoughts?
Yeah, I keep trying to come back to what would the customer think about in this scenario, because I've got thoughts, but mostly based on scars and experiences. As a customer, if I'm considering Salesforce of any kind, where's the line of demarcation? When do I decide here's a problem that I can do half of it with out of the box declarative stuff? How do you kind of explain to a client where you draw that line on when do you code? Or you just tell them, look, you need to dream out loud. Let me hear what you're saying because I can very easily help you with that. But how would you advise somebody like in their own head, if they've got an org and they want to start learning this, right? Tim always tells me, if you want to learn about Claude, go talk to Claude. Claude knows Claude better than anybody. If you want to talk to Claude about how you tailor your own agent to help you do stuff, how do you tell them to begin iterating that? Is it really just a conversation? Like you literally hit the microphone in Claude and talk to it and say, I'm in Salesforce. I'm on the case object. I want to do some basic things. Like how do you begin that process?
Yeah. So I mean, you gotta kind of get Claude to visualize what you're talking about. So whether you're sending screenshots along with, hey, here's the layout today, but here's this. Here's my other website and this is my idea. I want to like marry the two and have it sit here. And you kind of lay it out for you and then ask it to plan it for you. You can ask it to just flat out plan it, or you can say, I want you to plan this, but plan it with all of it configuration. I want to see that first. Or plan it straight custom code. Or hey, I want you to plan this marrying the two across configuration and custom code. And it can lay it out pretty well for you, step by step, how it would recommend going and building that. And I do find that for the most part, it's pretty up to date with Salesforce current functionality. Every now and then I catch it, recommending something, and I'm like, I think that's being retired or that's been deprecated, or actually, here's a new like LWC thing. I think you're missing this.
Yeah.
Send it that documentation, and then it will update the plan for you. But I think it does a pretty good job of laying it out in pretty plain terms, how you would high level build something. Then you can just keep iterating with it. You want to go deeper in detail. You want to step by step with estimates. It'll give you estimates by you have 1, 2, 3 developers, you have this timeline. So it's really on the user and the granularity that you get out of it.
You just made my ears rattle with harmony. As an engineer, I want to sit and draw everything out. There can never be too much detail. But what I heard you say, and maybe it's my engineering brain over engineering that, but if I were to sit down with somebody who never met me, and I've got a very small, think of it, a lawyer on retainer. I've got a very small amount of time to tell them what I need them to know to give me very good feedback. You kind of want to come at it that way, right? You want to verbalize. If you literally want to hit the microphone and talk to it, you can. But you want to tell it as much context as you can to give it all the facts of the case by which it can make a decision to come back to you. If you tell it very little, it'll still come back with a robust decision, but it won't take into account the things that you really wished it would have thought about. And you can go through back and forth until you can perfect how you define context. But yeah, I love that fact because I still get to scratch that itch of building things, artifacts that I can share, that I can hand around with anybody. If I call Taylor and say, hey, bring your tailored agent over here, I need to talk to you about something. If I've prepared the case, I can give you something that immediately becomes context, even if it's a picture.
Yes, absolutely.
Pause for dramatic effect, right? I can give it a picture and it can understand that.
Yes, it can.
That's
it's actually really crazy.
That's
I
awesome.
feed it screenshots all the time.
My understanding now is that our official POC practice needs to be called Tailored by Taylor.
Absolutely. Tailored by Taylor. Hey,
see how many more Taylors we can fit in there.
Indeed.
Yes, love it.
Yeah. So obviously part of consulting, and we've got to come at this kind of an asterisk or a footnote, Allie. Not everybody who listens necessarily is a consultancy. Sometimes it's just people who own an org. But as a consultancy, we always have to do a little more than just say yes, build something and throw it at you. We always want to come at this to give you something that you're not going to look at in 10 minutes or 10 months and say, what the crap was this? Right? We want to give you something that you can pick it up and build on it. What does that mean? A, we follow best practice. We never try to use a product in a way it wasn't intended to be used. B, we want to document that thing. We want to make sure we put lines in the code. So if I can't find the Word document or the PowerPoint or whatever to look up what it was that Sirius did, it's in the code. All of those things need to be a part of delivery. That none of that goes away. But in terms of scaling, no matter what happens to your team, if you went from one developer to 10 or one admin to 6, or you went from a company with one business org to 10 like I had, to go back and remember 10 years, I was younger then. I could remember conversations 10 years ago. But inevitably, you're going to find your situation where the person who said it wasn't in the room anymore. So all those things are still in play, but now you can use Claude to not just build a solution, document the solution, explain this decision, all those things. And by the way, spit that out as an artifact that I can just throw in Word. Just tell it to do the document for me. So Taylor, a million questions come to mind. None of which are appropriate for this episode, but just things that I want AI to make my life easier with. But thank you. Thank you for what you do here at Sirius, because I remember the conversation that Allie sent out into the orb saying, should we? And
can we do this? Yeah.
A lot of inappropriate words came to mind and they ended with no. But the fact that you thought outside the box, you were not afraid of it. And even in the early iterations of AI, you found a way to turn that thing into something really made what we do around here just be a completely different process.
And I do want to plug too that if anybody wants to learn more from Taylor's going to be talking about this more.
Yes.
Taylor's going to be talking about this July at Witness Success. We'll work on getting her some more speaking opportunities to talk about how you can build an AI tool that helps you too. So there's definitely going to be more opportunities down the line specifically on this topic.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Taylor, I'm trying to think of a funny pun to throw in here. Thank you, Taylor, for your time. You've been a real blessing to have here at Sirius. So I appreciate you bringing that expertise here today. We will put a link to Witness and some other things that Taylor mentioned in the show notes for today. I want to make sure you'll be able to know how to get in touch with her. But yeah, thank you guys very much for your time. This is a fun topic to talk about. The ceiling has been raised for certain, but I appreciate your time. Well, thanks for listening to Serious Talk, Salesforce at Scale. Taylor, thank you for joining us today and sharing your journey with AI. There were so many highlights discussed, but none more powerful than nothing got thrown out the window with AI-generated code. Every best practice we've held 5 years ago still holds true today. Start with a plan, follow the pattern, peer review the code, document the decisions. What changed is the velocity. When you can get from idea to something a client can actually see in 2 hours instead of 2 weeks, you build trust sooner, and trust is what lets a platform scale. If you've ever slammed the door on custom code because the total cost of ownership scared you, give this one a second listen. The headaches that earned code its bad reputation are the exact ones these tools are clearing away. If this episode was useful, follow the show and leave us a quick review so other Salesforce teams can find it. Taylor will be speaking on this topic at Witness Success in July. We'll drop relevant links in the show notes. A sincere thank you goes out to Jason Fowler for allowing us to use his song, Mystery Road. Questions or guest ideas, you can reach us at SeriousTalk@SeriousSolutions.com. Until next time, plan well, build with discipline, and let the speed work in your favor.